Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, June 10th, and this is Q News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. Thank you, America, and that's how we begin tonight, by reporting that last week, Q News Tonight was watched in YouTube by more than 180,000 people, including a new record for a single episode with 61,370 people watching the June 4th show. The next closest YouTube video watch from a Florida LGBTQ brand was watched by 3,000, which demonstrates what an incredible accomplishment this is. All LGBTQ fight for visibility, and when one rises, the entire community rises. So we appreciate your continued support.
In our headlines tonight, we report that Vice President Pence tapped anti-LGBTQ Christian extremists to lead session with black leaders.
City of Tallahassee stalls on releasing name of police officer who killed trans man Tony McDade.
Trump attacks Buffalo protester who was pushed down by a police Antifa provocateur.
In a sea of homophobia in Poland, an amazing condom ad from Durex starring gay YouTube couple airs.
Boss of New York police asked people to stop treating us like animals and thugs.
Dozens of unmasked gay men seen partying on New York streets without social distancing.
Central Park Karen wins her dog back and sparks outrage in the process.
People are calling for crackdown on police at pride marches.
Black staff are calling it quits at Liberty University over Jerry Falwell's racist tweet.
Provincetown considering shutting its doors to outsiders.
The queers took over more than 1,000 UK billboards as new campaign to bring pride to the streets despite COVID-19.
In COVID-19 news, we report coronavirus facts for Wednesday, June 10th, 2020.
Dr. Fauci says the WHO not correct that asymptomatic people rarely spread COVID.
COVID-19 cases and deaths in the USA see sharpest increase since pandemic began over last week.
In good news, a New Jersey man has made over 500 shopping trips for the elderly.
We celebrate June LGBTQ Pride Month in our Q News commentary, the undiscovered archive of Pride.
In our fun, The Big Finish, Joe Exotic says he will be dead within months without the help of Donald Trump.
And longtime Trump advisor and suspected evil wizard Roger Stone comes swinging for the Free Britney Spears movement.
Anderson Cooper and son Wyatt make the cover of the first ever Pride issue of People.
No Context Wednesday. Anna Kendrick says filming the Twilight films was like a hostage situation.
Goose Island Beer Company and Drag Race alum Shea Coulee sets a debut of this summer's draggiest beer.
Ultimate Rainbow Pride, happy 98th birthday to Judy Garland.
So good evening again, America. It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, June 10th, 2020, and it's time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell tonight on Q News Tonight. Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Thank you for joining Q News Tonight. We are live. This is a live show, so anything can happen tonight. We bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, Misty Eyes, and co-guest anchor David Hopkins. So let's queer up the news. Tonight we bring you Q headlines. The LGBT community in America is diverse. The LGBTQ community around the world is vast, and we bring you the bullet points of the queer news for today, Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. We queer up the USA by reporting Vice President Pence has tapped anti-LGBTQ Christian extremists to lead a session with black leaders. Vice President Mike Pence, the former Indiana governor, who spurred national outrage for his vicious attacks on the LGBTQ community, picked an anti-gay extremist to lead a discussion with black religious and political leaders. The Reverend Harry Jackson Jr., a black minister from the D.C. area and ardent Trump supporter, is best known for his ferocious attacks on the LGBTQ community. He is a member of Trump's Evangelical Advisory Board. The meeting was held at his Pentecostal church. While this was all going on, President Trump has been actively urging violence against protesters on Twitter and at press conferences.
I don't know why this surprises anyone. Pence has a proven track record, much like his fellow closet case Lindsey Graham, and they're just going to keep attacking and keep attacking.
Like we say about other people like Lindsey Graham, thou protest too much. And I'm not surprised by this either. Mike Pence is still into conversion therapy, and of course he's going to bring in an anti-LGBTQ person to get us unified.
In 2016, 87% of the black community voted for the anti-Pence and Trump candidate, and 82% of the LGBT community voted against Pence and Trump. And no one's going to be fooled here. The number is going to go up on November 3rd, 2020.
Next, we queer up the USA. The city of Tallahassee stalls on releasing the name of the officer who killed trans man Tony McDade. The city of Tallahassee has decided to delay releasing the name of the officer who shot and killed Tony McDade, a black transgender man, last month. After announcing last week that it would release the officer's name, the city has now said it will release the name no earlier than Friday and perhaps even later. The city's decision is intended to give the Florida Police Benevolent Association time to appeal a decision last week by Leon County Circuit Judge Charles Dodson, who refused to grant a PBA request injunction that would have kept the officer's identity concealed.
I honestly don't know why they're dragging their feet. This should be out in the news, and they should confess what they did, and it should be dealt with.
For the rest of the country, you may not know, Florida is two states. Florida is the peninsula, and then it is the panhandle. And the panhandle is privileged white people.
This all harkens back to something the whole country is seeing right now. There are a lot of good cops. There are bad cops. The problem is there's a lot of precincts with a lot of deep-seated issues where good cops aren't promoted and bad cops are protected. And it just all goes back to that.
We continue by queering up the USA by reporting Trump attacks Buffalo protester who was pushed down by police. The president attacked Martin Gugino even as the activist was in the hospital recovering from a head wound sustained when the police shoved him to the ground. His friends identify Martin Gugino as an activist, a seasoned peacenik, and has participated in demonstrations against military drones, climate change, nuclear weapons, and now police brutality. Apparently, the one thing he is not, however, is the wily Antifa agent. Trump tweeted, quote, "Buffalo protester showed by police could be with Antifa." The 75-year-old Martin Gugino was pushed away after appearing to scan police communications in order to black out the equipment. I watched. He fell harder than he was pushed, was aiming a scanner. Could be a setup, Mr. Trump's tweet, none of which was backed by a single fact. Raced across the internet all day, even as Mr. Gugino, 75 years old, still lay in hospital recovering from the serious head wound he sustained on the police officer's hard push and then walking by him with no one assisting.
I don't want to sound like a broken record after the last headline, So I'll just say this. Our president is a bully, and he is taking the sides of other bullies all around the world, whether they're the leaders of governments or a bully cop who's giving other cops a bad name. Someone needs to stand up to these bullies, and that's what all these protests are about.
Very well said, David. And I also would fall much harder than somebody pushed me. It doesn't matter how hard he fell or how hard he was pushed. The reality is he was indeed pushed. And this is not a video game. This is not a war. And we don't have to take out our perceived enemy. And come on, guys.
The knee on George Floyd's neck is a moment that has galvanized action all over America and really all over the world. For many, many privileged white people, that push in Buffalo will have the exact same effect, not only in police change, but also in terms of how we vote going forward.
Now we queer up the world. In a sea of homophobia in Poland, an amazing condom ad from Durex starring gay YouTube couple airs. This ad by Durex is just what the LGBTQ community needed after the recent rise of homophobia in this country. The campaign is all about the notion that it's okay to be loud in bed. And the couple in question are real-life lovers, Jacob and David, who are well known in their Polish YouTube scene. While this advertisement may be commonplace in more progressive countries, it signals pushback towards the government that seems to care less and less about LGBTQ rights by the day.
I think it's fantastic. On Q News tonight, we have reported so many Eastern European anti-LGBT stories, and Poland is almost ground zero. Ground zero is Russia and Putin's Moscow. So this is good news that this commercial is running in Poland.
It's always fun to get loud in bed. I've broken a few beds. But at the same time, I do want to point out that Q News Tonight has reported on Jacob and David before. They were the couple that was making rainbow masks and handing them out in protest.
I didn't know that. I don't
I
remember.
didn't know that either.
Well, cześć, Jacob and David. Thank you so much for representing without fear. You have to live out loud and live by example and lead by example, and others will follow.
Next, we queer up the USA. The boss of New York police asked people to stop treating us like animals and thugs. One of New York's top cops has accused the press of vilifying police officers. Michael O'Meara, head of the New York State Police Benevolent Association, went off on the media in a Tuesday press conference in remarks that have been criticized as tone-deaf and hypocritical. O'Meara said, "Stop treating us like animals and thugs and start treating us with some respect. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting." At the conference, O'Meara, standing in front of a lineup of what appeared to be mostly white men in masks, pushed back against the many black Americans who have come forward to say they are fearful of law enforcement in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. O'Meara said, "It just doesn't happen." Unfortunately, it does. The rate of fatal police shooting among black Americans was 5 times higher than any other race or ethnicity, reports the Statistica Research Department in numbers compiled between 2017 and 2020.
David said it earlier, just a few minutes ago. We are surrounded by amazing police officers. Yes, there are rotten apples in every bunch. Yes, there is a code of brotherly conduct where we protect those that are our brothers, even if they are bad. We see movies about it and TV shows about it all the time. But not all cops are bad, and they are there to protect us, and we need them.
This is a reflection that the president of New York's Police Benevolent Association is tone deaf. In what is going on in America right now, in the midst of these protests, he is tone deaf. To reach out in any way to voice opposition to the protesters and to the media is a tremendous mistake. We know all police officers are not bad, but we have to fix and solve the problem of those that are.
Chris Rock said it best, there's some jobs where you can't be bad. An airline can't hire a bad pilot who's just going to crash into a mountain. The police department's the same way. Also, to point out statistics, a lot of people are pulling up the fact that almost the same number of white and black people have been killed by police when unarmed. That is true. However, black people only comprise 13% of the U.S. population, where white people are about 70% of the population. And that is where that 5-to-1 ratio of killings comes from.
Mm-hmm. Now we queer up the USA. Central Park Karen wins her dog back and sparks outrage in the process. Amy Cooper, who choked her dog on camera as she called the police on a queer black man, has been given her dog back by the animal shelter, and pretty much nobody is happy about it. Cooper could be seen on video choking her dog as she called police on an innocent gay black man, which initially led to the dog being taken from her. The Abandoned Angels Cocker Spaniel Rescue, the shelter which took the dog and eventually returned the dog to her as per her request. Social media went ablaze at the pronouncement, with many citing that this was the perfect example of what it means to have white privilege.
We cue up the USA by reporting dozens of unmasked gay men are seen partying on New York Street without social distancing. Drag performer Champagne Bubbles posted images on Facebook of gay men closely congregating on a street corner in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of Manhattan without wearing face masks, even though New York City was the epicenter of the U.S. coronavirus epidemic. The actions by these men is being called a slap in the face to all of the healthcare workers tirelessly fighting the disease, as well as defying state laws handed down by Governor Cuomo to ensure the virus does not make a comeback in the coming weeks.
We queer up the USA. People are calling for crackdown on police at Pride marches. The protests and demonstrations that have erupted across the United States and the world against police brutality and racism have resulted in calls for police to be permanently banned from future Pride marches. Pride events are often surrounded in controversy for allowing police to participate in the parades due to the LGBTQ+ community's complicated and volatile history with authorities. In 1969, the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement began after police stormed the Stonewall Inn in Manhattan's Greenwich Village. Homosexual acts were illegal in New York City at the time, so queer clubs were often subjected to police harassment. Some pushed back against this, though, saying it would put queer officers in a difficult position of choosing their identity or their job.
Now we queer up religion. Black staff are calling it quits at Liberty University over Jerry Falwell's racist tweet. Black employees at Liberty University have started resigning after University President Jerry Falwell Jr. made a racist tweet on May 27th featuring an image of a black face and someone in a KKK hood. Falwell had made a post as a way to shame Virginia Governor Eric Northam after his executive order requiring state residents to wear face masks in public to help slow the spread of COVID-19. As of June 7th, the state has the 12th highest number of overall coronavirus cases in the United States. The state reached its third highest ever daily toll of new cases. Falwell said in his tweet about Northam's executive order, said he would only wear a mask if it could have the racist yearbook image printed on it.
Wow. We cue up the USA by reporting Provincetown is considering shutting its doors to outsiders. The popular LGBTQ destination, Provincetown, which has long been a haven for outsiders, is now weighing the risk of keeping people out while weighing the health risk of COVID-19. This comes as a bit of a reversal of fortune for the LGBT community, as many have lived with the fear of being rejected by their community. But now, spurred by health concerns and wielding economic power, it is the movers and shakers in this LGBTQ community of this usually bustling summer destination that will now soon decide if they are going to be inclusive or shutter their doors for the summer.
We queer up the world. Queer folk took over more than 1,000 UK billboards as a new campaign to bring pride to the streets despite COVID-19. Pride festivals and marches have been cancelled due to COVID-19, but new UK digital billboard campaign, Pride Inside, is set to put LGBTQ people front and center. The campaign aims to celebrate the diversity and resilience of the LGBTQ community. More than 120 queer contributors and photographers teamed up to create photos from their homes and public places to display on billboards all over the United Kingdom. The campaign's also helping to raise funds for the LGBT Consortium, with the money being distributed among local organizations.
So tonight, let's catch up on all of the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment called Quarantine Quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting of coronavirus facts, especially important for the LGBTQ community. We report on coronavirus case numbers for June 10th, based on standard acceptance of 7% of population for the LGBTQ community. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 516,067, and America's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 143,622. We remind you that America is ground zero of the pandemic. The USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, and today America is 27.8% of the cases in the world. We next report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 29,042, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 8,001. The U.S. is now 27.5% of all world deaths. We report on testing facts. As of today, America has tested 22,221,000 tests have been taken out of 328 million Americans, which means we've still only tested 6.7% of the population. Q News Tonight, therefore, recognizes our Hall of Fame top states in testing, which as of today, June 10th, is number 3, New Mexico, number 2, New York, and number 1, Rhode Island. We also at Q News Tonight recognize our Hall of Shame states. These are the ones doing the worst in testing, and LGBTQ America, again, we hope you're not living in one of these states, which is number 5, Kansas, number 4, Colorado, number 3, Oregon, number 2, Idaho, and number 1, there is no testing going on in Puerto Rico.
Quarantine Quickies. Dr. Fauci says WHO not correct that asymptomatic people rarely spread COVID. Watch this.
Adding to the confusion, the World Health Organization, after a leading doctor suggested on Monday that people without symptoms only rarely spread the virus, contrary to all medical guidance. That doctor says she wasn't clear enough. Up to 40% of infections may be due to asymptomatic spread.
What we need to better understand is how many of the people in the population don't have symptoms, and separately, how many of those individuals go on to transmit to others.
White House Health Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci said Wednesday the World Health Organization's remark that transmission of the coronavirus by people who never developed symptoms was rare was not correct. The WHO walked that back because there's no evidence to indicate that's the case, Fauci said on Good Morning America. In fact, the evidence we have given, the percentage of people, which is about 25% to 45% of the totality of infected people, likely are without symptoms, he said. And we know from epidemiological studies that they can transmit to someone who is uninfected even when they are without symptoms. An asymptomatic person is someone infected with COVID-19 but never developed symptoms.
Quarantine Quickies. COVID-19 cases and death in USA see sharpest increase since pandemic began over last week. Watch this.
Across the country, 21 states have now seen an increase in cases. Cases up at least 30% in Florida, Arkansas, South Carolina, and North Carolina just in the past week, and a jump of more than 40% in Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. Texas, among the first to lift stay-at-home restrictions, reports 2 days of record-breaking hospitalizations. Now, as New Jersey joins other states in lifting stay-at-home restrictions, the nation's top health experts say it's critical the public hears this message loud and clear.
The bottom line is all the scientific evidence we have right now is pretty clear that people without symptoms who are infected can and do spread the disease. So that's why you got to wear a mask and you got to keep that physical distance.
Across the country, 21 states have now seen an increase in cases. Cases up at least 30% in Florida, Arkansas.
Recording their highest averages of new cases since the pandemic began. Hospitalizations in at least 9 states have been dramatically rising since Memorial Day. In Texas, North and South Carolina, California, Oregon, Arkansas, Mississippi, Utah, and Arizona. There are an increasing number of patients under supervised care since the holiday. Weekend because of coronavirus infections. The spikes generally began in the past couple weeks and in most states are trending higher. Texas, as example, is the state that had the earliest and fastest reopening plan. Texas has reported 75,616 cases since the pandemic began, and in 10 of the past 15 days, the state's 7-day average of new cases has increased. As of Tuesday, it has reported 2 consecutive days of record-breaking coronavirus hospitalizations. The state has seen a 36% increase in new cases since Memorial Day, with a record hospitalizations as of early Tuesday afternoon.
Well, that ends our news for tonight, Wednesday, June 10th, and we're going to end tonight's broadcast with The Big Finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news and news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Q News tonight's The Big Finish. We begin. First, Joe Exotic says he will be death within months without help from Donald Trump.
Oh, Joe Exotic. Well, at least if you die, your husband Dylan can come see me. I may not have tigers, money, or meth, but at least I have most of my teeth.
Most of them. You know he is coming out of his skin right now with his zoo just being given to Carol Baskin, and you can't blame him for trying. He's at the highest peak that he will ever be fame-wise. He also heard that the Trumps are fans of his show. I would have done the same thing. But I hope he didn't try to use the I'm going to die because I'm LGBTQ in prison, because the Trumps aren't very sympathetic to that cause.
What is wrong with me that I just can't seem to get enough of Joe Exotic, even in prison, especially when he uses the words Donald Trump over and over again? The Big Finish. Let's stay in our same crazy mode theme. Longtime Trump advisor and suspected evil wizard Roger Stone comes swinging for the Free Britney Spears movement. We've got something on this. Watch this.
Roger Stone with a shout out for Britney Spears and the Free Britney movement. That's right, it's Britney, bitch. I want to congratulate you and throw my support behind the Free Britney movement so we can end this conservatorship abuse, expose Lou Taylor, and shut down Shannon and the Zone. It's time that Britney get the fruits of her own labor. God bless you.
Well, this is kind of fake news. It's from Cameo, which if you're not familiar with it, is where you can send somewhat celebrities a couple dollars and they'll read a script for you. I mean, thank God I don't know anyone who will read a script on an internet show for just a couple of dollars.
Okay, wait, I was going to say, did I miss something? What does she need to be freed from? I was very confused, but that actually makes sense. I was going to say, I can think of a lot of worthy causes right now besides freeing Britney.
Roger Stone. Done. Just done. The Big Finish. Anderson, a lighter story. Now we move out of the crazy segment of The Big Finish. Anderson Cooper and his son Wyatt make the cover of the first ever Pride issue of People magazine.
Anderson Cooper, I congratulate you on your son and your photo shoot. And if you want to have another one, I am more than willing to help you try and get pregnant again.
You know, but babies don't live, right, David?
I try.
But by the way, my ovaries are hurting. I'm so happy and jealous for Anderson Cooper. I want a baby too. In fact, I want 2 or 3. But you know, there's a part of me that wants him to become a Kardashian momager, and I want to see more pictures. Put the baby on every magazine and every news article. And then part of me is like, hide the baby.
Your ovaries are hurting.
They're hurting.
I stopped listening at that moment.
My ovaries are hurting.
Pride magazine, first off, thank you very much for on behalf of the LGBT community. Your son, Anderson Cooper, so actively promoting that. Thank you very much. And Anderson Cooper, you're an inspiration to our entire community. Thank you. The Big Finish. No Context Wednesday. Let's do one of those. Anna Kendrick says, filming the Twilight films was like a hostage situation.
Oh, girl, me too. I felt that way just watching them.
Wait, Aka, excuse me, Anna Kendrick was in Twilight? Like, I became a huge fan during Pitch Perfect. And now I have to go back and watch The Twilight Show. But to be honest with you, I did see this interview, and she said it was only because it was freezing cold out when they were filming. As an Alaska girl, I understand.
Yeah, they filmed it in British Columbia, actually, and it did kind of look a little like Alaska. She's better in the Hilton commercials now than she was in the Twilight movies. The Big Finish, Goose Island Beer Company and Drag Race alum Shea Coulee is set to debut the summer's draggiest beer.
I personally do think Shea Coulee is going to make top 3 of All Stars 5, and I like to drink Goose Island, so this is kind of a win-win.
Of course, we're talking about a drag race again on the show because of Al, I'm sure. But I will say this is brilliant. Shea Coulee brings you Shea Cool L, and I think the gays will be drinking this summer.
First off, silence, you jealous bitches. Every time I mention RuPaul's Drag Race, Michelle Visage writes me a $20 check. I love you, Michelle, with all my heart. And let's point out one thing, not the beer, but the reference to the embracement of the beer. Nothing I can remember in the last decade has had more impact on public impression of the LGBT community than drag queens. And that has been led for one reason. And it's called 2 words, RuPaul. The Big Finish, Ultimate Rainbow Pride. Happy 98th birthday to our girl over the rainbow, Judy Garland.
Oh, Judy, there's nothing like watching Judy when you pop some Judies with your Judies, and next thing you know, gotta sing.
Somewhere over the rainbow, I had to sing to. And as a friend of Dorothy, Diva, happy birthday, and may you rest in power.
I thought you had ovaries. I'm so confused.
I have ovaries, and they're hurting.
And I have to say, you know, it's a tough Camel Hump Wednesday when both David and Misty are singing. It kind of takes all the luster out of Judy.
Bah humbug.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't worry, your forehead's lustery enough for all of us.
Wow.
And that is today's news from the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Q News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
And we especially would like to thank David for his last night ever on Q News. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. And this is the only source of live. Obviously, we're live or he would never get away with that.
Let's cut that out.
LGBTQ news in the entire world. Your community really needs your support.
You are not alone. We will get through this crisis.
Oh, you're alone, Dave.
We are here with you, and this is Q News Tonight.
So thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of my co-guest anchors, Misty Eyes, and what's his name, we will see you daily and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, everybody.